Hey everybody, Alex from SCADA Forge here. In this video we'll go through the Gold Certification Study Guide and we'll set up our tags under the practice test prompts here. So for this we need to set up some UDTs to represent various packaging and refrigeration devices on the plant floor. And since we have a bunch of projects set up on the gateway, we'll use our Acme tag provider to separate things out, but otherwise we'll follow this the same way. So first you want to download the Programmable Device Simulator program for Practice Dairy. That's a CSV file that we'll import. And then we'll create a new Programmable Device Simulator called Dairy Plant and load that program. So we'll go to our gateway, connections, devices, connections. And we want to call that Dairy Plant. So we'll create a new device connection. We will scroll down to the Programmable Device Simulator. We can spell. And we'll just select no program for now because we'll load one. And leave everything else as default. We'll click Create Connection. That shows up here as running. So we're good to go there. Then we need to load that program. So we can click the three dots on the right and go to Edit Program. Then we can click Import and go to our program, and we'll drag that over and click Import, and that creates a bunch of tags with values, and we will save changes. So now we are running there, and we will go through and create a UDT next. So we'll go back to the designer. And we can do all of this in the backend project that we have open already. The tags exist on the gateway, so it doesn't really matter which device you set them, or which project you set them up with. They'll all exist and be exposed to all the projects through the Acme tag provider. So we'll select the Acme tag provider here. So first let's import the tags so we know what we have to look at. We'll click the plus button. We'll click Browse Devices. We will expand our Dairy Plant device. And under Refrigeration, we see that we have Tower 1 and Tower 2. And let's see if we need compressors at all. We do not. So we will, let's create a new folder here. Call this Refrigeration. Then we will select that, and we will select the Tower 1 and Tower 2 folders and click the little arrow in the middle to bring those over. And now we'll see that those are created, or will be created. So we'll hit OK. And now we see our Tower 1 and Tower 2 tags set up over here. So we want to create a UDT from all of those tags, and then we want to update our bromine, chem, and circ set points. Those will be memory tags with a default value of 100. So since we have these folders already set up, we can right-click on the folder and do Create Data Type from Selected. And this will bring across all of those tags and map their OPC paths as needed to those tags. And we'll see it creates with the name Tower 1, which we just want to be generic for Tower. And similar to the design challenge, we want a parameter to be able to parameterize this. So we will put tower num, which will be an integer data type, and we'll just make that a default value of 1 so we can see data changing. And we can come to our OPC path here, and we can delete that, and we can put in curly brackets tower num, which will bring that parameter across from the UDT definition, and we can apply that anywhere here that we have tower 1. Okay, so let's put that in. Hit enter to accept that, and we'll hit OK. Now, let's just rename this to Tower 1 OPC and Tower 2 OPC so that we know these are the raw OPC tags. And then we can right-click refrigeration, new tag, data type instance tower, and we can call this one Tower 1, and our parameter is defaulted to a value of 1, so we can hit OK. So now we can right-click on our refrigeration folder as it's selected, do new tag data type instance, and we can call this Tower 1. And our parameter value is already set to 1, so that's okay. So we'll hit OK. And that adds our UDT instance down here to the bottom. And you'll see that is the UDT instance tag. Or icon. It's like a little white tag as opposed to like the filled in gray tag like you see on the other ones. And we'll see that these values match up because using that parameter, all of our OPC paths are the same. And we can now do this for Tower 2. And then we'll change our parameter to a value of 2. And we can hit apply. And you'll see this turn green on the left of the tower num name here. That means that this is different than the default UDT setting. So we'll just hit OK. And now we can expand Tower 2, and these values match what we're seeing in the Tower 2 folders because our parameter has now mapped everything to Tower 2. So we can clear these folders out. We'll just delete those. And these paths are mapped to tags in our programmable device simulator, so we don't need those folders to exist for the tags to populate with values. And then next we need to add these 3 set point tags. That'll be a double data type with a default value of 100. So go back to our designer. Now we'll go to UDT definitions. And we can add a memory tag. Call this bromine SP, double data type, a default value of 100. Then we can either copy paste that or we can go through new tag again. We'll just copy paste it since everything except the name is going to change. And then we need chem SP and circ SP. And now we can hit OK. And we see our bromine, chem, and circ SP added to both of our UDT instances. And they all have a default value of 100. So we are good to go there. And we already created a folder called refrigeration and added the tags to that. So we're good to go there. So now we have refrigeration, Tower 1, and Tower 2. Okay, so next we need to create an AU, a sensor, and a palletizer UDT to represent devices from the packaging area. So let's create a new folder, right click, new folder. You can also use the plus button and new folder, and we want to put that in the root here. So we'll just deselect everything. Call this packaging. Now we will browse devices again. We'll browse down to our dairy plant PLC and we'll go to packaging. We need AU, palletizer, and sensor. We'll just do one folder this time since we saw how that worked last time. So we'll select those three folders for AU1, palletizer 1, and sensor 1, and we will move those over. And we'll see that they're under here. Then we'll hit OK. Then we can create data type from selected. Let's make this AU. We will add a parameter called AUNum and replace the number in the tag path with that parameter with the curly braces around it. Hit enter to accept and OK. Then we will create data type from selected for palletizer. We will give it a parameter palletizer num, and you could make that device num or anything you want. We'll just keep it simple with the same name that we're using in the UDT. Palletizer num. We'll just copy paste this. And let's make sure those all came across. Yep, those all look good, so we'll hit OK. And we'll create a sensor 1, create data type from selected, and add a sensor num property. Control V instead of Control C. Sensor num. Copy that and paste that here. And hit OK. Now just to show the values, we'll add OPC to the end of these because it won't let us create the same name. So we can't create a sensor 1 tag if we have a sensor 1 folder. And then we'll right click, new tag, data type instance, AU. Let's call this AU1 and put in a 1 for our parameter value. Then we will new tag, create a palletizer. Give this a value of 1. And we will create the sensor, new tag, data type instance sensor. One. Okay. Now if we look at our sensor tags, those match. Our palletizer tags are all 0, those are fine. And AU are both 0, so we can clear out these folders. Select those and hit delete. Yes, we want to delete those. Now we can just copy all three of those, and let's see what we want. Yeah, we want 1 through 3 of each of those, so we'll just copy those and paste those twice, and then we'll change our parameter number on 2 and 3 to be 3. You can also expand your UDT and parameters and change that number here if you want. You could also, if you really wanted to, or you had a lot of tags you were setting up, you could script a lot of this out using some system.tag function calls. But we're only doing a few here, so we'll just do this manually. Sensor, oops, this needs to be 2. Sensor 2, sensor 3. Palletizer 2, palletizer 3, AU3, AU2. So we're all good to go there. Okay. We got a little bit ahead of ourselves. We need to create a single dynamic UDT definition with nesting that represents a production line from packaging and creates a dynamic instance of those UDTs we just created. So we can clear these out since we don't need those now. We'll go to UDT definitions. We'll just right click and new data type and call this packaging line. And we'll give this a line num parameter. And below that, we want to add instances of our UDTs. So we'll create a new data type instance of AU. We'll create a new data type instance of palletizer and a new data type instance of sensor. This is, look at all properties. This will be AU line num, and our parameter value will be line num. Then line num and line num, and look at all properties. This will be AU line num. Oh, I guess we can't do that. AU palletizer and sensor. And it tells us what our parent type is down here, so we know what we're looking at there. So we can hit OK. Now we have a packaging line UDT that has instances of those UDTs contained within it. So now we can do new data type instance, packaging line. Packaging line 1, give that a value of 1, and hit OK. And we'll see now that we mapped our parameters for packaging line number. We pass that into the parameter for the AU, the palletizer, and the sensor. So now those all line up with packaging line 1's values. So we can paste this twice, and it'll auto increment the number in there. If you have multiple numbers, you want to make sure that you're incrementing the right number, because it usually only does the last digit. So we'll change that parameter to 2 and this parameter to 3. And now we have our 3 packaging lines. And these all have data changing. So we're good to go there. So we did a new folder called packaging and add 3 instances of our production lines. Finally, create a new dynamic UDT that represents the first 4 motors in the packaging area, then an inherited UDT that inherits that and adds additional tags needed to represent the last 4 motors in the packaging area. So let's go to, we'll keep this clean for the moment, and we'll just create a motors folder to see what we're looking at. And we can browse devices, dairy plant, packaging, and we'll bring all 8 of our motors across and hit OK. So if we look at motor 5 and motor 1, so motors 5 through 8 have additional tags. So we have an amps and an HOA for all motors, and then we have a fault status and temperature on 5 through 8. So first we will create data type from selected on our motor. Let's call this base motor. Replace our parameter or our motor number in our OPC path with our motor num parameter, and we can hit apply to that and OK. Now that gives us our base motor, which will be motors 1 through 4. Then we also need a new data type. Call this advanced motor. We will, similar to the projects with inheritance, we can select a parent data type of base motor and apply that, and that will automatically map the tags that exist in base motor and our parameters. So that starts us out there, and we'll hit OK on that, and we need to add a fault status, which is a short, and a temperature, which is a double. So let's grab our OPC path from fault status, and it looks to be the same. We just put temperature at the end for temperature. So we'll go to our UDT definitions, advanced motor. We will create a new tag, OPC tag. This will be called fault status. Then we select the ignition OPC UA server. This is a data type of short. Then we will pass in our path and update our parameter here. And we will copy paste this. This is temperature. And we change fault status to temperature here. Hit apply and OK. So now we have our base motor tag, UDT, and our advanced motor tag. And then if we were to, let's say, add a memory tag, just as an example, give it a default value of 99, into our base motor, you'll see that we also now have that in our advanced motor. So this is a really good use case if you have, in this case, 4 motors that have some set of tags and 4 motors that have the same set of tags plus additional tags. You can use inherited UDTs to simplify that, so you don't have to. So then if we needed to add memory tag to both, we can inherit the more advanced one from the basic one, and then we just have to add those tags in one spot to get them to apply to both. So we'll just delete that, and we'll see that it is deleted from both. So now we are good to go there, and we need to create all 8 motors, maintaining the naming structure of motor number, and we'll do 1 through 4 as the base motor and 5 through 8 as the advanced motor. So we can just delete our motors folder. And you don't have to create the folders and import them in. That's more to simplify things a little bit for training purposes. So now we go new tag, new data type instance, base motor. We call this motor 1. And earlier we set up a default parameter. That is one way to do things. If you don't set up a default, then you will create your UDT, but you'll see errors on your tags, typically because your path isn't set up. You can right click and go to view tag diagnostics to pull up diagnostics on that. If you want to see any issues with that tag, that's looking at the UDT. We can go to tag diagnostics on amps, and we'll see this has a bad node ID. It doesn't exist in the server address space. We don't have anything in active subscriptions or reference log. So we can go through here and see that, oh, we didn't have a default parameter value, so we can enter our parameter here, and now we should have values on those. And if you did set up a default value and you forget to change it, so let's say, just for demonstration purposes, we'll create motor 2, and it now has the same parameter value as motor 1, so the tags are going to match. So you may run into issues with default parameters if you don't update them. So an easy way to manage that is to not set them, which if you're doing what we're doing here to create UDTs, like in the moment like this, it's probably easier to just set the parameters as you're going. But just however you want to approach that. And then we will do motor number 4. Now we can then new tag, data type instance, advanced motor, call this motor 4, motor 5, sorry. Give that a value of 5, hit apply. And then this just shows us that we have an inherited UDT type, so we can look at a glance and see that. And let's say, for example, we create motor 6 and we accidentally copy and pasted the wrong UDT instance. We can go to all properties and change our parent base type to advanced motor, and that will then update everything accordingly. So now we can go to motor 6 and we'll see that we have our fault status and temperature tags here. And then we can do motor 7. and motor 8. And looking at the tags here, I see our temperature tag is an integer value. I think we forgot to change that to a double here. So we can just double click on the tag in the tree under the UDT definition, or we could go to the UDT definition and edit it there either way. And now we see our decimal places. So we have added all 8 motors to the packaging folder with the motor number naming convention and set up the second half of the motors with the additional tags. So that takes care of our tag and UDT setup, minus historical storage, which they want for all the tags. So we can set that up, and let's first go to services, historians, and we'll just create a SQL historian for this. We'll just call it Acme history, just so that we keep all of this data separate from the other projects. And we'll select our Acme database, and let's change partition unit to weeks and enable data pruning to 1 week. Let's make it 2 weeks, just so that we clear data off of our development server here. So we'll create historian. That gives us a new historian provider that we can use for these tags. We want to come here. We'll first go to our base motor. We'll select both tags under there and go to history. We will enable history and use our Acme history provider. And we'll just leave everything as default, except we'll put, just in case they don't change for some period of time, we'll put 5 minutes as a max time between units. So we can hit OK there. And we'll come up here. That brings our history across from the base setup, our base motor UDT. So we'll just go to true, Acme history, 5 minutes, okay. Then AU. And if you wanted to change, like let's say we wanted one of these tags to go to 1 history provider, you would just change that tag, or select that tag before you make any changes, and then select the other tag to do whatever you need to do there. And in this case, I just right-clicked on the tags in the tree and did edit tags instead of double-clicking on them, but multiple ways to get in there. And I'll just do all the instances below the packaging UDT, because we don't have any specific tags in the packaging UDT. They're all coming from the base level UDTs. So we'll just put them on the base level. If we had tags in the main level, we could set those up there on the UDT definition itself, but everything will come from the base level UDTs. And then if we need to reuse those somewhere else in the project, we could create instances of those and have history already set up. So we can refresh. And now we'll see that we have the history icon set up on all of our tags. And And the history icon's the little clock there. So we're good to go. So that meets all of our tag setup requirements. Next, we'll dive into alarming. So check that next video out for that, and thank you for watching.